Aquarius. There are days that pass by so quietly, you almost don't notice them. Everything stays where it's always been, the same rhythm, the same familiar thoughts, looping in their usual way. And yet, just beneath the surface, something begins to shift, a feeling that's hard to name, slowly rising. It's like standing at a crossroads, but this time, you don't rush forward, you slow down. You take a closer look, and somewhere inside you, a quiet question starts to form. Are the things unfolding right now really what you once thought they would be? Lately, something unexpected may have appeared. Small opportunities, passing offers, or even a moment that seemed almost accidental. Yet, somehow, it made you pause, just a little longer than usual. Not because it was overwhelming, but because it touched a different thought within you, a perspective you may have once overlooked. And then, a question begins to linger. Is this just another familiar choice? Or is something here inviting you to see yourself in a completely different way? Because this time, what matters most may not be what's arriving in your life, but how you're choosing to see it. And what's interesting is, as you begin to look a little closer, you may start to notice not everything appearing in front of you carries the same meaning. Some opportunities, you understand the moment you see them. They feel clear, they make sense. They're like roads you've walked before, just repeating themselves, only a little smoother this time. And honestly, a part of you feels comfortable with that, because you already know what to do. You can almost predict how things will unfold. And you don't have to ask too many questions. Choices like these don't usually confuse you, but at the same time, they don't really make you stop and think either. And then, there are other kinds of opportunities, quieter, less defined sometimes, even a little hard to understand. They don't come with ready-made answers. They don't give you a sense of certainty. Instead, they slow you down. You don't rush to say yes. You don't rush to walk away. There's just a space that forms between you and that choice. A quiet space. And within that space, something begins to unfold. Not because the choice is wrong, but because it doesn't allow you to remain who you used to be. It doesn't fully align with what you once believed was right. It doesn't fit neatly into the plans you've grown used to, and because of that, it invites you to look again. Not at the choice itself, but at yourself. You begin to ask, what truly makes me feel alive? What makes me want to move forward? Not just stay comfortable? And then a question quietly appears. Not loud, but very direct. Are you choosing this because you truly want it, or because it feels like the safer option? This isn't an easy question to answer, because sometimes the line between desire and safety isn't as clear as it seems. There are choices that bring you peace, but don't help you grow, and there are others that make you hesitate, yet awaken something deep and real within you. Not a surface-level excitement, but a deeper resonance, like something inside you is recognizing itself. Aquarius. You may not need to rush to label every opportunity as right or wrong. You don't have to force understanding before it's ready. Just notice how you respond to what appears. What makes your breath slow down? What makes you linger a little longer? What feels hard to answer right away, yet impossible to ignore? Sometimes those pauses hold more meaning than any quick answer ever could. And maybe, among everything unfolding in front of you, what matters most isn't choosing what seems better, but recognizing what is quietly calling you, in a way that feels entirely your own. And maybe, after all those pauses, you begin to notice something different. The change you once waited for doesn't arrive like a crashing wave. There isn't a dramatic moment where you can say, "This is it. Everything has changed." Instead, it comes in quietly, in a way you might have missed before. Aquarius often believes that an important decision should feel clear, that when the time comes, you'll just know what to do. But there are moments when life doesn't move like that. No absolute certainty, no obvious sign you can lean on, just a shift in the way you see things. And slowly, you begin to realize what makes the difference isn't the choice itself, but the way you're looking at it. The same situation, the same offer, the same path, yet something feels different. You don't react right away anymore. You don't rush to decide what's right or wrong. You don't try to control the outcome. Instead, you pause. Not because you're unsure, but because you're actually listening. A different kind of listening. Not outward, not pulled by expectations or other people's voices, but inward. And in that space, you begin to notice something subtle. Some answers don't live in logic. They don't show up when you chase after them. They appear when you become still enough to recognize them. And for you, this may feel both familiar and new. Familiar because deep down, you've always had a quiet sense of knowing, but new because now you're not using it to react quickly. You're using it to understand more deeply. You're no longer trying to prove anything, not to others, not even to yourself. You don't feel the need to show that you're on the right path. You don't force certainty where it doesn't naturally exist. There's a soft release happening, not a release of responsibility, but a release of the need to control everything. And in that space, something begins to take shape. A different version of you, quiet, unannounced, unlabeled, and yet, you can feel it. You're a little more patient, a little more open, and maybe a little more honest with yourself than before. Aquarius. You might not fully see it yet, this change within you. But if you look closely at the small moments, the way you choose silence instead of reacting, the way you allow yourself not to have all the answers, you may begin to notice something clear. You're no longer trying to become who others expect you to be. You're slowly returning to the version of yourself that actually feels right to you. And sometimes, the deepest change in a person's life doesn't come from choosing a new path, but from learning to see themselves through an entirely different lens. And then, as you continue to observe in this way, something else begins to reveal itself, clear, and yet very subtle. Not every opportunity that appears in your life is meant for you to hold on to. It may sound unusual, because for so long, opportunities have been seen as something you need to grab quickly, before they disappear. But this time, some of the things showing up for you aren't there for you to follow. They're there to help you look back, to look at yourself, in a way you may have never done before. And you may start to notice something that once made you curious, once confused you, once kept you thinking for a long time, no longer creates the same feeling. It's still there. It hasn't changed. But the way you feel about it has. You're no longer pulled into those familiar patterns, no longer trying to explain, analyze, or force yourself to figure it out. Instead, you begin to see it as something that has already completed its role in your life. You don't need to hold on to it. You don't need to resist it either. It's just, you're no longer on the same frequency with it. And that moment can feel difficult to name. Not quite relief, not quite sadness. More like realizing that a part of you has gently come to an end. Naturally. Aquarius. This isn't loss. You're not losing something important. You're growing. In a way that doesn't need attention. In a way that doesn't ask for recognition. You're no longer drawn to what once unsettled you. You don't react the same way anymore. You don't feel the need to return to places you've already moved through. And that is a very clear sign that something within you has changed. At the same time, another path quietly begins to appear. It doesn't stand out. It doesn't try to get your attention. It doesn't create that immediate wow feeling. In fact, at first glance, you might have overlooked it. But when you stay a little longer, when you truly feel into it, not with your thoughts, but with that stillness inside you, you begin to notice something different. It carries a feeling. That's hard to explain. Unfamiliar. Not like anything you've chosen before. And yet, at the same time, it feels right. No need to explain. No need to prove. No need to understand everything right away. It's simply, you don't feel like you're trying. You don't feel like you're forcing yourself to fit into something. It's more like you're allowed to be yourself in that space. Aquarius, you may not have an immediate answer about what you should choose, but maybe something even more important is becoming clear. You now know what is no longer meant for you, and sometimes That clarity alone is the very first step toward recognizing what truly belongs to you. Yeah, and then, after you've begun to see more clearly what no longer fits, a different kind of space starts to open in front of you. Not an immediate answer, not a clearly defined path, but a quiet space. A space that, in the past, you might have rushed to fill as quickly as possible. But this time, you stay with it a little longer. If you find yourself standing between two directions, between two choices that both seem to make sense in their own way, you may start to feel a very familiar kind of pressure. The pressure to decide, to choose the right one, to not miss out. And yet, something inside you is beginning to shift. Not every decision needs to happen right away. Some things, the more you rush them, the easier it is to fall back into old patterns. But when you slow down, when you give yourself a little more time to truly feel, things begin to settle in a very different way. Not instantly clear, but clear enough that you no longer feel pushed forward by fear. You don't have to be right now. You don't have to prove that you've made the perfect choice. You only need to be honest with what you're feeling in this moment. It sounds simple, but in truth, it isn't always easy, because sometimes your real feelings aren't the loudest voice. Fear is. The fear of missing out. The fear of choosing wrong. The fear that if you don't act now, everything will pass you by and never return. And those fears may have led you to make quick decisions before. Quick, but not always aligned with you. Quick, but leaving you questioning them afterward. But this time, something is different. You're no longer being carried by that urgency. You're beginning to understand that a decision doesn't have to come from pressure. It can come from calm, from a place where you're not chasing anything, not trying to hold on, not afraid of losing something. Just still enough to see clearly. Aquarius. What moves you forward may not be the biggest choice, the safest one, or the one most people would agree with. It may be the one that allows you to remain connected to yourself. And sometimes the deepest change in a person's life doesn't come from a dramatic turning point, but from a quiet moment. A moment where you pause, you breathe, you no longer react from old habits, and you realize you don't have to choose from fear anymore. And then, after moving through those pauses, those moments of slowing down, those questions that didn't need immediate answers, something begins to feel clearer, not in a loud way, but in a way that feels deep. What's coming toward you may not look like what you once imagined an opportunity would be. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to excite you right away. It doesn't need to prove its value through anything on the outside. Instead, it feels like alignment, a feeling that's hard to explain. But the moment you touch it, you realize. You don't have to try so hard to stay with it. You don't have to hold on tightly. You don't need to question it over and over. You don't have to change who you are just to make it fit. And that feels very different. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. You're there, fully present. And somewhere inside, a quiet part of you nods. Not because you understand everything, but because you no longer feel out of place. Aquarius. Not every door that opens in front of you is meant for you to walk through. And somehow, that doesn't trouble you the way it once did. Because now, you're no longer searching for doors just to have more options. You're beginning to sense which ones make you pause, breathe a little deeper, and feel like you belong in that space. The doors that truly fit don't ask you to shrink, don't make you question yourself, don't leave you wondering if you're doing the right thing. They simply open and allow you to step through as you are. And this time, you're not looking for a loud kind of change anymore. You're not waiting for big signs or dramatic turning points. What you're choosing now is a kind of change that runs deep enough to stay. A change that doesn't need recognition, but feels real enough that you don't want to go back to who you were before. And maybe that's what truly matters. Not what you've found, but who you've become along the way. Aquarius. If you're still listening right now, you might be sensing something very subtle, that things don't have to be fully clear in this moment. You don't have to rush to understand everything. You don't need all the answers. Just stay with what you feel. Keep listening the way you've begun to, Because sometimes, what's truly coming closer isn't something outside of you, but the moment you finally feel that you are exactly where you're meant to be.